Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more dedicated Legacy action. Today we are going to be the bad guy. That's right, we're going to be playing the horrible Monowhite Initiatives deck that is gone from sort of a little fringe deck that a few people were like looking at to now the best deck in the format with the highest percentage of play of any deck in the format. So what is this deck trying to do? We're trying to put these two creatures into play as early as possible to gain the initiative. The initiative is a dungeon that basically gives you incredible value, and while you have the initiative, it's a bit like the Monarch where you get to go through an extra room in your upkeep. So these guys are just going to end up being like 5/5s pretty early on, and this guy is going to let you push through. And obviously this guy helps you protect the initiative because it untaps itself. So they're just absolute beatings. These are basically the best creatures in the format at the moment, and they can attack quite easily into stuff. And they, obviously the value you get off the initiative is astounding. And their abilities are very useful. So that's kind of like the big thing of the deck here. But we've also got a few other little creatures to bulk it out. So we've got some Thalia as a way to slow our opponents down, because we don't need many turns to win the game because of how hard our creatures hit. So this just buys us a tiny bit of extra time and does enough. And it also helps against the combo matchups, which are one of the only things that really people are having to play now, because Control is basically dead right now. So you've got Delver, Initiative, and Combo decks. So this kind of can hit Delver and Combo decks relatively well. We've got some Elite Spellbinders to mess with our opponent's hand. This is also a 3-1 with Evasion, which is important. I like this more than the Peacekeeper in the build at the moment, because you get to block Murktides with it or Delvers, so you can keep the initiative a bit better with it. The flying on it is just useful, in my opinion. And we've got these interaction slots here. So we've got 4 Solitude as our main form of removal, a couple of Palace Jailers, because we're not letting our opponent hit us anyway, so we may as well take the Monarch and, you know, win the game that way. We've got a couple of Walking Ballistas, which can, because we're making a lot of mana, we get to play these and maybe add some counters to it. We can use it as a bit of interaction, and if anyone's got any random like pro-white guys, we can ping them down with this. Chalice of the Void, a staple of all Stompy decks. I used to play a lot of Eldrazi Stompy back in the day in Legacy. Just after it got banned in Modern, I was playing Eldrazi Stompy for a while, and I quite enjoyed it. That's kind of what a Stompy deck should be, in my opinion, where your creatures are hard to remove sometimes, or they have extra value. But if your opponent can remove them, then you're not still going to accrue value, unlike the initiative stuff, which I think is a little bit too good, personally. Anyway, so that's the Chalice. We got some Touch of the Spirit Realm. This is sort of standard Oblivion Ring, but it doesn't hit enchantments, which can be quite important. But the fact that you can cycle it, so you can channel it, sorry, and flicker something is really useful, whether that's on Merit Lage tokens that you can do uncountably, or just blinking out anything that's causing you troubles. That's pretty good. Or you can blink your own creatures to steal back the initiative, and so on and so forth. And then the rest of the deck is mana. So we've got 21 lands. We got 4 Emeria's Call. The reason why we're bringing Emeria's Call, if you watch any sort of Stompy decks, you'll see that this is a land when you need it, but it's also a white card to pitch to Chrome Mox, which we are running 4 copies of. So it kind of does double duty in that regard. And we don't really care about our life total, because in almost every matchup we are the aggro. So there we go, Emeria's Call into the Chrome Mox. We've got 4 Lotus Petals to help ramp ourselves out. We've got the full playset of City of Traitors, which you don't see very often. But because of the way the initiative works, when we get our creature, we get a land out of our deck for getting the initiative, so we can kind of offset the cost of City of Traitors sacking itself. We have the Ancient Tombs I mentioned, Cavern of Souls. We've got relatively diverse creature types, but these are humans, and these are humans, as is the Palace Jailer. So we can name it on human and get quite a lot there, but sometimes we'll be putting it on Cleric because it's the White Plume and the Elite Spellbinder. So those are the 2 creature types we're going to be naming. It's not impossible to name Elemental here, and there are probably no occasions we're going to name Soldier here, because this is a soldier but it's also human, and this is a soldier but it's also human. So human is just going to be better for us to name. We could end up naming Construct, but it seems unlikely. And we've got a few utility lands, the single Eiganjo and a couple of Karakas, which when I play against the initiative, they always draw when it's good. So let's hope we can be the bad guy this time and do that. So that's the main deck. Pretty straightforward, beat people down, disrupt them a little bit. Sideboard-wise, we're going to need Swords to Plowshares, especially in the mirror, so that we can kill our opponent's creatures and then swing through with ours. So these are going to be coming in over our Chalices in some matchups. The Blessed Alliance is just another way of maintaining the initiative, so you can use this to blow up creatures with the sack and attacking creature mode. The life is probably not that relevant on it, but it might come up. But the untapped 2 target creatures can be pretty good. If we don't have White Plume, so our guys are tapped and attacking, we can always untap our guys. So this is going to be coming in matchups mainly as a removal spell, but sometimes we'll be able to untap our creatures and cast a removal spell off of it, and it's just going to be really, really high value. A Containment Priest is a human and a cleric, so it's got good creature types. It hoses Reanimator a little bit, so we got that. We've also got these 4 Leylines to try and hose Reanimator and stuff like that, and turn 1 combo decks, which can get in underneath what we're doing. We have 1 Loran of a third path, which is a human. This is basically the only way we have of destroying enchantments in the deck. So some builds are running March for the Worldly Light, because enchantments can be a bit of a problem sometimes, but this is what we've got. And the text on it is pretty relevant. Sometimes drawing a card, if we're in a certain situation, like we've got our opponent underneath the Chalice, quite often one of our cards will be better than one of our opponent's cards. So we might be able to use it like this. And it's a Vigilance body that if we stick counters on, will get nice and big and can attack and block. 1 Touch of the Spirit Realm, in case we need more removal. Again, you're seeing a pattern here. This is very much because the mirror is a big thing. And we have 2 Archon of Absolution, again for the mirror. This means that our opponent has to spend more resources to attack us, and we get a white creature with pro white that they're going to struggle to remove. It's got 2 toughness, so it's not always easiest to kill with Ballista. And yeah, that's about it for the deck. It's pretty straightforward. Like I said, I used to play a lot of Eldrazi Stompy back in the day. So it's been a while, but my mindset should be alright to play a bit of Stompy today. So let's see how we go. But before we jump into a league as the bad guy, let me just say, likes, comments, subscribes. They cost you nothing, they help me out. If I can get enough subscribers, I can get some money back from making these videos. And then that money can go into play points and ticks and stuff, which means I can play sort of more weird and wonderful decks because I don't have to worry about having to pay for them out of my own pocket, if you know what I mean. I can just get it off the ad revenue. Alright, we're done with that. Let's jump into a league with Monowhite Initiative, the bad guy of the format. Alright, round 1, we're on the play. We can make a turn 2 Elite Spellbinder, which is pretty lackluster, to be honest. I think we can do better, so we're going to mulligan. This hand doesn't really go anywhere because we have no mana sources at all. So not a great start. I feel we need to have a turn 1 play. Like that's kind of what our deck is designed to do. So let's see. We'll have a turn 1 play or an incredibly good turn 2 play. I don't think the Elite Spellbinder in our first hand counts as an incredibly good turn 2 play. Opponent kept 7. We're going to mulligan again. This hand is not really filling me with joy. Do I want to go to 4? This is a turn 2 Chalice, but if we draw one of our many soul lands, we can play the White Plume. A little bit cold to Wasteland. I think this is fine. So we're probably binning off the Palace Jailer and the... It's either Touch the Spirit Realm or the Elite Spellbinder. I think we'll go for the Touch the Spirit Realm. Let's play this Eiganjo and pass. We could have played out the Cavern, but the Cavern gives us an uncounterable White Plume, so I'd rather keep that safe from a Wasteland for later if necessary. Right, opponent's got Flood Strand. This could be Delver. Seasoned Dungeoneer. So we're going to name with this. I think we'll name Cleric. Let's go for a Chalice for 1. If a deck with Flooded Strand, Chalice for 1, probably going to be pretty good against them, so this is going to force some action. Force of Will, pitching Force of Will. So this could be Delver. Could be something else. So Wasteland is going to be good against us here. Delver, one of the few decks that's got... Okay, so we're looking at Death Shadow here, which is another one of the matchups, one of the decks that actually seems alright against the Initiative deck, because they've got 3 removal spells, they've got sizable threats, and a decent chunk of permission, and Wastelands. It's kind of the very rare mix you need. Baleful Strix, sure. So this can block our creatures. What we like to draw here. Not that, basically. So we're missing a land drop here. So we are going to get a bit rocked here, I'm afraid. No Wasteland, okay. You can pepper us for 1, that's fine. A Plains. So you can play an uncounterable White Plume here. If our opponent's Death Shadow, they might not even have a basic to fetch. So this is like we have to. So we're either casting this or we're casting the Elite Spellbinder. Have to decide which is better. Actually, I think maybe we'd cast the Spellbinder first, and this way we can keep the initiative more easily, and they have to spend an actual removal spell on this. And we're guaranteed to get the trigger here. Death Shadow, Murktide Regent, Reanimate. So our opponent's on 16. What am I most worried about here? The Reanimates are definitely going to be annoying. But I think we just have to soldier through them. Take the Murktide. So I believe they can pay the additional cost with the Delve on it. Because the way Delve works. Because that pays for one. Yeah, so it costs 2 more to cast. So they can delve more cards away for it. We're not going to block the Baleful Strix now because we know they have Reanimates. We're just going to keep it back for blocks for the turn that we can get our White Plume Adventurer going, if needs be. If we could go White Plume into Seasoned Dungeoneer, we can probably win the game. That should race what our opponent does. But if they kill one of our guys and reanimate it, that's a very real thing they can do. We haven't given them any reanimate targets yet as well. That's our opponent's turn. This guy's going to attack. We're going to take 1. Play out the polluted delta we knew about. Sure. So they could get themselves into Death Shadow range here. This turn I think we cast this for white. 1/1. This gives us the land for the Seasoned Dungeoneer next turn. If they've drawn a removal spell, then it's a bit unfortunate for us. But right, so we've got a White Plume now. We get to go into the dungeon. We get ourselves a basic land. Now, Death Shadow normally doesn't really run basics, but they might have 1 in their deck just for the purposes of getting value off of the first room of the Undercity. So we'll play out our basic here. And I don't think we're going to attack here. I think we just hold back the Elite Spellbinder. We don't have to block with it, but I'd rather have the choice, especially since their life total is something I want to kind of hit in one go. Because if I give them an option of having too big a Death Shadow, that's going to put us in a bit of trouble. I think we let this hit us this turn. And then we cast the... I'd rather... So basically, if this dies, they'll reanimate it. So I have a choice of either giving them a basic land or a random card from their deck. I think a random card from their deck is better than a basic land here. And this will give us more creatures to attack backwards. I still think we were right not to attack last turn. Just in case things went wrong in a different way. Okay, they do have a basic. I see. So this is probably going to be the turn they deploy the Death Shadow, I'd imagine. They're on 12, so they're going to deploy a 1/1 Death Shadow right now. Or they're going to go for the Murktide. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So they have to tap out to play the Murktide if they want to. So there's the Death Shadow, sure. And another one. So we know the 3 cards on our opponent's deck. And Emeria's call. Does that change anything here? I don't think so. I think we're just playing the Dungeoneer out. So we're going to go into the dungeon. We're going to forge. I think we're just going to make a big White Plume here. We go to attacks. So we attack for 5 this turn. And then we attack for lethal next turn. That seems fine to me. So we're going to explore here. We didn't get a counter. We did draw a card off of it though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't think we're in the market for playing out this Emeria's Call in this game, so we're going to play this one tapped. And then the White Plume will untap itself in their upkeep in case we need an emergency blocker. But we can trap them, and this guy is unblockable. So as long as we don't lose anything here. So they played a Misty Rainforest, so we know all the cards in our opponent's hand. So I don't think our opponent can win this game. There we go. Sure. So even though our opponents assembled 2 massive creatures with a Murktide in hand, we just beat them because of the text on Seasoned Dungeoneer, basically. So cards that are good here. Source Plowshares, very good against Death Shadow stuff. But then again, so is the Chalice of the Void. So I think we're probably better off having the Chalice in, which means we're probably looking at these Blessed Alliances. I don't believe that Walking Ballista is going to do anything here. That's an easy split. We saw those reanimates, so maybe we're looking at Containment Priest here as an option. And Leylines always have pretty good text against Murktide decks, but they're not a Dragon's Rage challenge, so it's just that. So it's a case of whether or not we want the Containment Priest, I think. If we look at all the other tools we have here, I I think we just have a fine deck here. We're just swapping out the Ballistas for the Blessed Alliances is fine. Now we're going to be relying a little bit on these things for removal here. We could always try a Touch of the Spirit Realm, just we've got one more removal spell. But we definitely want to keep the Chalice in. So if we're boarding in this Touch of the Spirit Realm, what are we cutting for it, is the question. I think we want to keep our base of creatures, really. Which doesn't give us a lot of room to cut anything else, does it? We don't want to cut any mana because our opponent is a Wasteland deck. Is Touch of the Spirit Realm better or worse than a Palace Jailer? That is the question. It's cheaper. No, maybe we just don't have that. I guess the Elite Spellbinder could be a Touch of the Spirit Realm. That might be the cut. But we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 removal spells. I think we'll be fine like this. We can always readjust it in a bit. So we have mana, but we have nothing to do with it with this hand. So we're going to mulligan. So this is mulligan. We need to find some creatures and stuff. So we can definitely keep a Chalice. So we can click the keep button on this. I don't think we need the City of Traitors here. I think that's fine. So we can play a turn 1 Chalice, which will force some action out of our opponent, I would imagine. Now we could just get Thoughtseize on turn 1 and lose our Chalice, which is unfortunate, but we can get there. We have a removal spell for their first threat. Only when they attack with it, though. Okay, so playing explosives on 0. So we don't really want to play out the Chalice now. Interesting. So I think we're just going to play out this basic plains. And we'll pass the turn. And then play the Thalia out next turn. We could have played the Ancient Tomb here. But if they then wasteland us, that doesn't feel great. But we can force them to spend money, to spend mana with their engineering explosives if we want to. Okay, the grief. Sure. So we're probably losing the Seasoned Dungeoneer here. It seems like the obvious play. What do they pitch to this? A snuff out. Yeah. They might take the Thalia as a tempo play. That's certainly a possibility. Yep, they're taking the Thalia as a tempo play. I see. Are you going to follow up with anything? No. We didn't come here to not cast White Plume Adventurer, so... Looks like we're probably getting hardcast Daze here, unless they're going for a Brainstorm to find an answer. This looks like a Daze then. Yeah, sure. I'm not sure why they didn't hardcast Daze. Because this is going to cost them mana here. Alright. Set our opponent back a turn. So there's the Watery Grave we knew about. They're going to take the damage from it this time. A Thoughtseize. So we're probably losing the Seasoned Dungeoneer here. And Emeria's Call. I think we'll just play out the Karakas. And cast a Chalice for 1 of this. So our opponent's going to have to spend 2 mana at some point to deal with this. Which is fine by me. Opponent's only got 2 cards in hand. An Elite Spellbinder. That seems fine. I think we cast this one. Playing around Daze. And we see our opponent's hand. If they have like something like a Brazen Borrower, we might be inclined to Emeria's. Okay, so they just have a Force of Will. Sure, so we'll play this tapped. And yeah. That seems okay. So this turn, they've got the time to blow up the explosives. So I imagine they're getting blown up at end of turn. There we go, yeah. There's the mana efficient play from them. We knew that was going to happen at some point. We were kind of hoping it would take more of a pivotal turn off of them. And we didn't have anything to do the turn we played it. And we can't really recycle cards in our hand like decks with Brainstorm. Okay, so we're going to lose our Blessed Alliance. But our opponent doesn't have anything. They're keeping the Misty Rainforest in hand for the purposes of Brainstorm, which makes sense. We're going to attack them with Paolo here. If you're unfamiliar with why I call it Paolo, this was a card for Paolo Vita Dama de Rosa when he won the tournament for it. One of the player cards. Alright. So we've got this Solitude. There's no point cracking it off. We've got a 3-turn clock in play as is. Our opponent's got 1 card in hand. If we play this, it gives us the ability to kill our opponent next turn. So I'm certainly down for playing this. Okay, they're cracking this. They're getting a Watery Grave. Tapped. They've got one card in hand, they've got a Force of Will in exile. Sure. So they had the Daze in exile and they're using... the Daze in hand, so they're using that Daze to play the Force of Will from exile that costs 2 more. So our opponent can't use their Misty Rainforest. A Brainstorm. They can't shuffle away from this Brainstorm, so they might concede after this if they don't have a way around this Spellbinder. Something like a Baleful Strix would be pretty good here. Now, obviously we could Solitude it, but they don't know that, so they have to play into whatever they can. Sure. So there's a Strix, that's going to draw them a card. So we're going to have 1 card in hand. So our Solitude gets killed by Daze. Thalia. Would I rather play a Thalia or the Solitude? I think I should be playing the Solitude out here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They have to have a Daze in hand. They did not have a Daze in hand. Sure. So they gain 1 life here, but they're going to take 3. And then we have 2 lethal threats, and our opponent's got 1 card in hand. And they know the top card of their library, so we'll see if the top card of their library is going to be any good by whether or not they shuffle here. Okay, so they're not too upset with the top card of their library then. No, okay, they're just dead. I'm not sure why you wouldn't shuffle there. Maybe they just knew they didn't have anything that works. But if they'd have had something like a Plague Engineer, they could have played it, killed our Elite Spellbinder, and blocked the Solitude. Alright, so yeah, as you can see there, we didn't even get the initiative. We just sort of beat down with all these things. But our opponent spent a lot of time Thoughtseize and stuff and never had a threat, really. So, yeah. Alright, let's go on to the second round. So what does this hand do? Doesn't really get us anywhere. I think we can Mullen. This hand is a Chalice on 1 and then possibly a Seasoned Dungeoneer on 2. So I think we can keep this one. We're probably looking at binning the... Is it the Touch? So it's one of these 3 cards gets binned, I think. I reckon we're going to bin the Touch the Spirit Realm in case we are struggling for white mana later on. Flooded Strand and Cracked from our opponent. Volcanic Island. This looks like Delver to me. Dragon's Rage Chalice, sure. And a Bauble. So we have an option of Walking Ballista-ing our opponent's Dragon's Rage Channel this turn instead of casting this Chalice. That's certainly an option. The Channel represents a ridiculous amount of filtering for our opponent. So I'm quite inclined to crack this off. But we'll see what we draw and then reprise the situation. Plains. So I think we're going to go for the Walking Ballista this turn. Reason being, we can then play... If we can play a Dungeoneer out onto an open board, then we're in a good shape. If this gets countered, we can follow up with a Chalice next turn. I think we are just going to kill this straight off. If they untap, they might be able to get enough things in their graveyard for it. But the fact that I didn't get countered makes me want to play this Chalice next turn. Depending on what we draw, we might be able to play Thalia and a Chalice in the same turn. Like, we don't want to use our Petal until we know we've got the additional source of the Seasoned Dungeoneer. They did not shuffle off their Ponder. Makes me believe our opponent might have a counterspell here. Okay, so this is pretty good for us. So we play out our Plains. Play out our Lotus Petal. Then we play out our Chalice. Then we play out our Thalia. This has to get a reaction, I think, from our opponent. It's too strong of a card. But then we can play a Thalia, which does a similar thing in terms of restricting our opponent's resources. A Brainstorm, sure. That means they don't immediately have the answer, or they're just trying to make sure they have the best information going forward, in case this Chalice does stick. Force of Will, Pitching Daze, sure. Then we'll cast this, and that resolves. So, Expressive Iteration isn't something they can cast this turn and get full value from. They haven't played a creature. 3 cards in hand, the Thalia resolved. I'm inclined to just play out our Seasoned Dungeoneer here. If it resolves, we're in really good shape. It's resolved, sure. So our opponent can Lightning Bolt our Thalia here. So they're going to bolt it before we target with Seasoned Dungeoneer here. Sure. So that's better for us than if they cast a Brazen Borrower to attack with. This is going to be a Murktide, I think. Now, the problem they have is that we race a Murktide, I believe. Let's see how big it is. 7/7. So that's 2 hits. So maybe we don't... Do we not race this? No, I think we'll need 1 more card. So we have a choice here of whether we tool up this guy. I think we need to go down the Forge route, though. Solitude. That's a pretty good draw for us. So we'll chat with this. Chalice of the Void. I don't really want that. So this will hit for 6. And then next turn we hit for 5 plus another 6. So that'll be 11. So that will be exactly lethal. So we have this Solitude we can sit on if we need to. But we are winning this game as it stands. Now the one question I do have is if our opponent has a Brazen Borrower and they bounce our Seasoned Dungeoneer, that's the only way they can really interact with our Seasoned Dungeoneer. Do they have their one Brazen Borrower? Let them go to attacks. Yeah. Like this is always attacking because it can't block. So we have a choice here. We can pitch cast a Solitude. We can hard cast a Solitude. This is tricky with our opponent 3 cards in hand. This is just lethal. Brazen Borrower is the only thing we care about. So we can pitch cast this to play around Days. I think we pitch cast this and play around Days. This does give them another turn of living, but it means we don't lose the Monarch. So we get to draw, we get to trap them and then draw another card on the following turn, in theory. They can deploy another threat here, like a Delver or something. Expressive Iteration, sure. If they don't find a threat now, then I think the game is ours. Unless they already have land Brazen Borrower. A Wasteland, sure. That's not that exciting. So they'll probably take out our Ancient Tomb here to stop us deploying another Seasoned Dungeoneer. But the one we have in play is doing enough work, I think, right now. We will go Trap. Hit it for 5. And we drop turn. So we're attacking with this guy. Targets himself. Gives us a Cavern. It's not really what we wanted. So we're going to deploy this land and we're going to name Human. And then we'll keep this one in hand in case we draw something that isn't human. So our opponent could be dead next turn. A Pyroblast targeting our creature. It's not blue. So the reason they're doing this is so that they can play a Murktide. They're trying to get a big enough Murktide, I believe. Delver of Secrets, sure. 1, 2... Yeah, so they're trying to get the biggest Murktide they can. If this is a Brazen Borrower, we can redeploy our Seasoned Dungeoneer next turn with a Cavern, and we will go into Throne of the Dead 3. So I like the spot we're in, unsurprisingly. Let's have a look in the archives. Let's draw an extra card. It's not a useful one. That's also not a useful one. So we're going to lose the initiative this turn. But we do get to... do want this Emeria's Call. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So we can cast the Emeria's Call if it stays on top of our library. Okay, they've conceded. Sure. That's because we were going to kill them, right? Because it's going to become a 7. Sure. I was thinking about a decision that didn't actually matter there. Sideboarding. All right. What do we want against these guys? Again, Chalice seems really good against Delver, so Blessed Alliance is a good removal spell for them. I don't know if I want to bring in some of these things. Touch to the Spirit Realm doesn't seem amazing here. Leylines, I do like Leylines against Delver decks. It massively slows down their engine, and the only thing they can really race you with, so I'm pretty happy to put these Leylines in. We want Walking Ballista in case they bring in the pro-white guys. I like Thalia's. Seasoned Dungeoneer can be a little bit questionable. So I think that's a cut. And then if we're trying to fit in all of these cards, we're going to have to make further trims. Maybe we do trim the Walking Ballista and we don't really care about that. And then do we want these 2 Blessed Alliance over Touch the Spirit Realms maybe? That's probably slightly better. Now the one thing Touch the Spirit Realm does do is blink our creatures. So maybe we still want the touches. Maybe we do want the touches. Alright, let's go with this configuration, I think. Stompy decks and Leyline in the Void. A match made in heaven. Yeah, this is pretty much the nuts, so we will keep this. So this is turn 1, Chalice. So Leyline, Chalice, White Plume. Well, Leyline, Chalice, uncounterable White Plume. And if they blow up our Ancient Tomb, That's a little bit annoying, but we can live with it. Well, we have to draw another land for it, but we do have a basic that we can lead out on after that. Maybe try Thalia. Yeah, this is a pretty gross stompy hand. We will play the Chalice into a daze. Okay, we'll definitely play the Chalice into a daze here. Sure, so we've shut off our opponent's graveyard. We've shut off... So basically, the only threat in our opponent's deck right now is possibly Unchained Berserker and Brazen Borrower. So now we play this. We name Cleric. Play an uncounterable this guy. This gets us a basic plains. Predict. Sure. They should know the top card of the library from the Ponder, I believe. Because they did not shuffle their library, if I remember rightly. Sure. So our opponent needs to lightning bolt this. Pretty sharpish. But they're not going to be able to do that under a Chalice. So, a Wasteland. They can Wasteland us here if they want to. True Name Nemesis. Sure. So, do you want to scry here? I think we probably want to scry here. Alright. I think we put this one on the bottom. And this one on top. So we can play out the Seasoned Dungeoneer. But if we get hit by a counterspell here, that's pretty bad for us. If we play out a Thalia, that's going to... The fact that this is susceptible to Daze and Force of Will annoys me. So I'm going to go for the Thalia here. So the True Name Nemesis will not race us. Because our creatures are pretty ludicrous. But they can turn this sideways. If they've got a second one, that's going to be pretty good. But hopefully our Seasoned Dungeoneer, we can play it around a Daze next turn. We cannot play it around a Daze next turn. Okay, they won the initiative here. That might mean they've got a follow-up True Name. If they have a follow-up True Name, then we can't really play around the Daze with the Seasoned Dungeoneer because we're going to need to follow it through here. We did not have a follow-up one. Interesting. Another Thalia. Right, I think we attack with both guys here. So now we get the stash. So we get to play around the Daze now. Which is 1, 2, 3, 4. So play around the Daze. We can't play around the Force of Will, unfortunately. Force of Will, sure. So next time we go into the Catacombs. And we get a 4/1 skeleton with Menace, which is very good to take back the... it's very good to take back the initiative with. Even if they deploy a second True Name here. Like if they attack here and just forge up, I'm not really sure that gets them where they need to go. So, if they put their counters on this, the next swing can kill us, right? Thinking about it. I've done the maths right. They put counters on this, next time they attack us and trap us. So they might actually get us here. Tapping our Ancient Tomb for the Seasoned Dungeoneer might end up costing us. Let's see what we can get from our deck. A Lotus Petal. Yeah, I think they've got us here. So Delver is pretty much one of the worst matchups for the old initiative, generally speaking, because they can attack back with creatures quite effectively, and they have the right sort of disruption. So you get 4/1 black skeleton here, and our opponent's just going to trap us and kill us next turn. Sure. I'm just going to concede here. Save ourselves some time. So we go back to sideboard. I don't think we have any changes here. I kind of want the Blessed Alliances now, though, to deal with the doodad. Is it the Spellbinder? Maybe we're trimming a Thalia, maybe? Just because it's legendary, I don't want to get 2 in my hand and a Spellbinder. Let's go for that. We want to be able to get the old Blessed Alliance off on the True Name. This hand is a turn 2 White Plume with Counterspell. Through a Counterspell. Is that good enough? I think that's probably fine. We're relatively susceptible to Wasteland, unfortunately. But we can make sure we can kill a creature at least. Bit awkward leaning out on the Ancient Tomb. I think I'd probably rather keep our Cavern. No Wasteland, sure. Delver of Secrets. we're going to cast this. We want to keep this for the true name. Very tempting to play that, but I think we just play our guy and start ourselves ticking. This gets us another land, so if we do get wastelanded, we've got a bit of insurance there. And then next turn we can play the Chalice and then hold up Blessed Alliance in case that's a thing we need to do. I feel like our opponent must be making a 2-mana play here. No, just a Channeler. A Bolt. It's a Bolt, sure. So this can definitely go wrong for us here. They put a card on top of their library. Not a fan of that. Alright, let's do some scrying so we don't have a creature here. We don't want either of these, so put on the bottom. Put on the bottom. Draw for 10. A Chalice of the Void, you say? Let me cast this. We can get dazed here, which would be annoying for sure. I think it's worth playing into the days to try and keep the initiative. I'm just going to play a true name here. No, they're not. Okay. Sure. This is where they put like days into exile or something. That'd be really annoying. Okay, they binned off a Delver. Makes sense. I've got Chalice of Void in play. Force of Will entered the exile zone. We can use this Blessed Alliance to discard one card from our opponent's hand, or we can just take it and let them get the initiative. This is real bad for us, though. I don't want to play the Blessed Alliance straight into a Force of Will. This is what I mean about our opponent having the right selection of interaction. Maybe we should have played out the Chalice before playing out the White Plume. Okay. So we'll use the Eiganjo on this guy rather than the... well, it depends with what they do. If they forge it, we have to Blessed Alliance it. But if they scry, then we can Eiganjo. They're forging. Okay, so we have to use our Blessed Alliance on this. Now, if they've got a counter spell for this, then we're probably game over, I think. Yeah, okay. I think this game is donezo's. Pretty good example of why Delver is decent against the initiative, really. They're much better at playing a threat and protecting it than we are. And once they get the initiative, it's very hard for us to take it back off them. No, that's just us dead. Alright, GG's, sure. Yeah, so maybe if we play out the Chalice first, that one, I'm pretty sure it just eats a Force of Will there. Considering we saw quite a bit of force action there. Now, that's not to say it would be wrong to do it. If we'd have played it out, they'd have to force it before getting the Dragon's Rage Channel out. I don't know, I think it's a case of, do you think your opponent's got force, or do you think your opponent's got the Lightning Bolt? So I played around them having the force and they had the Lightning Bolt. They might have had both, who knows. Alright, let's go on to the next round. On the play for round 3. This hand is... like, if Chalice is good, this hand is alright. But... it is one of those where it's like a very weak keep, but it probably is keepable. So I think we'll keep this and just play a Chalice on 1 and hope that's good. Play this out. I think we are playing out our Petal here, just in case our opponent is playing some sort of Thalia type deck. Force of Negation, pitching Murktide Regent. Sure. Okay. Message received. So we can make a 2/2 Walking Ballista next turn that's uncounterable. Okay, maybe we can't do that. We just get wastelanded. Sure. Let's see what we draw. An Ancient Tomb. Sure, I think we play this out. And I don't think we want to make the Walking Ballista yet. A 1/1 Walking Ballista doesn't fill me with a lot of joy. Another Wasteland? Sure. We've got some lands in our hand though, so maybe we'll be okay. A Chrome Mox. Do we care about Chrome Mox? We're in a bit of a bind in terms of what land we play here, because if we play this and we name Ballista, and if we name like Walking Ballista, I think we just have to name Human just to make our top decks better. I guess we pass. Have they got the third Wasteland? No, if they have it, they should snap it off, right? They do not. Okay, so it looks like we're into Blue-Red Delver again. Sure. So this is the turn we make a construct that is unfortunately not uncounterable. But we might draw something different that changes our mind. We did not draw something different that changes our mind. So you can play a 1/1 Ballista. I kind of want to keep the Touch of the Spirit Realm as a problem here. Let me just fire this off as a 1/1 to kill their Delver. I don't really like this spot. But I think I have to keep the Touch of the Spirit Realm for Murktides. So I can't really play around days for that. A Ponder from our opponent. If we draw a human, we're in good shape. If we can draw a Seasoned Dungeoneer, they don't really have much in the way of main deck removal for it. Usually like 2 Unholy Heats. Alright, looks like they got a play. Dragon's Rage Channeler. So that's a creature we can kill with our Touch the Spirit Realm if we have to. Should we draw? A Chalice of the Void. Alright, this is too good to not play. Let's see if our opponent's got anything for this. They did not. Do I want to play out Karakas or a Touch of the Spirit Realm now? I don't think I do. I think I take 3 here. Because our opponent has a Murktide. We want to be able to kill it. We can afford to take the 3 here. And see how we go. Right, we haven't got the initiative in place. We don't have to worry about them taking the initiative off us. Okay, just pass me 3 mana. Okay, because I've got another city, I'm quite happy to... So there's our Touch of the Spirit Realm. Playing around days. Okay, they're using the Unholy Heat now into the Chalice just to surveil. Max out this. Now, we can definitely get punished if they have a Murktide here. But I think the more turns that Dragon's Rage Channeler is in play, the worse it is for us. Now, we do have quite a lot of removal. We have an uncounterable Palace Jailer in our deck. So that'd be nice. Thalia. This is a human, so we'll cast this. Do we need to play out this City of Traitors? This question 1, 2. I don't think we do need to play out the city just yet. Because if we draw another land, we're not doing anything with it anyway. We're just trying to fade Murktide turns. Just seeing who can draw something first, really. Seasoned Dungeoneer. That's a pretty good one. White, 2 and 1 for a very silly creature. An uncountable very silly creature. Pretty glad we put this on humans now. Okay, they're just conceding to that. Excellent. So, I think on these Leylines over Ballistas and the Palace Jailers. And then we wanted the Blessed Alliance for True Names. And probably cutting Spellbinder. And I'm always tempted to cut a White Plume, as weird as that sounds, just because of the power of Lightning Bolt. It's such a massive swingy play against us. It should probably be a touch, I think, though, for the Blessed Alliance. Right, we'll try it like this. It seems okay. We can get down a Seasoned Dungeoneer relatively quickly. As quick as turn 2, and I'll be uncounterable. So, Mishra's Bauble. Volcanic Island, no threat. That's good for us. What have we got here? A Leyline in the Void. Not what we want to see, but it can go under the Chrome Mox. So we're going to play out this Ancient Tomb. And then next turn, we're going to play out our Seasoned Dungeoneer with a Cavern. This is one that they can't Lightning Bolt. So, should be good. Okay, a Blessed Alliance against their Delver. Interesting. 2 Delvers. Okay, the writing is somewhat on the wall. We do have to play our Seasoned Dungeoneer here. I think we'll play out this Chrome Mox. Play this one out. Play this out, and we'll name Human. This is 1, 2, 3, and the white for this. Cast this guy. This gets us a basic plains. So we'll be doing a kicked Blessed Alliance next turn. If our opponent's Delvers don't flip, then we're in a reasonable spot here. Come on, don't flip Delvers. Meltdown. Okay, so they can do a Meltdown that's going to be reasonable against us. They're going to take 6 this turn, and they're going to get the initiative. But next turn, we gain 4 and kill one of their guys. Although if we're playing around days, we might not be able to gain the 4. True Name Nemesis. Sure. So we might be losing to the True Name here. Step 1, I think, is attacking with this. It can't block any of their guys anyway. Gets us the initiative back. Ooh, the Eiganjo is interesting here. I know we have it, though. So our opponent's going to go to the Forge next turn. So we need to hit them for 16. So if we go to Forge this turn, they're on 11. Then we hit them for 6 next turn, and they kill us on the back swing. But I don't know if going to Lost Well beats... Yeah, I think we still have to Forge up our guy here. And hope to rip well. So now we have to worry about... Now the question is, with the Meltdown, what land are we playing out here? We can play out the City of Traitors, but we're relying on our Lotus Petal for the white mana here. So I think we have to play out our plains rather than the city here. So they're going to Forge up onto their true name. And then we might have to do some sort of hit and hope play with the Blessed Alliance gaining some life and hoping that gets us somewhere. Yeah, this true name Nemesis is way better than any of these little pro-white guys that people have been playing. Like, pitches to Force of Will. It roadblocks any creatures in combat, and it's always unblockable. So I do think that the Initiative probably needs to get some bannings, but I also think the Delver probably needs some bannings in terms of Expressive Iteration, Murktide, possibly even DRC. So it's just sort of these two big powerhouse Juggernaut decks going at it at the moment in the format. A Fury. Interesting. They're evoking their Fury. Interesting. This makes me think they maybe have a second one. If that's the case, then I don't know how we win. Sure. I think we can scoot this one up here. So, any changes to where we're at there? Maybe on the play we want the Elite Spellbinder to slow down the... What's it called? The true name. Hopefully we can just be on the play, get a really nice hand and just go nuts. So this hand is a turn 1 white Plume. Pretty cold to Force of Will, but we can follow it up with a different turn 1 different creature. This has to be a Force of Will from our opponent. Sometimes you just got to check it. And this gets us the mana for the next turn. If we need it. Okay, they do have a Force of Will and they pitched a Brazen Borrower. Sure. So if they have a Wasteland here, they're probably going to lose. The other option we had there was to play out the Elite Spellbinder. But the power of the white Plume on turn 1 is just game over, so I think it's worth trying. Try a Chrome Mox. We'll imprint our bonus Thalia. And play out this little Lotus Petal here. And then we can either play out the Thalia or the Elite Spellbinder. I like playing out the Thalia here, because that's really going to slow our opponent down. And we can play the Elite Spellbinder next turn, which will be a turn before they can deploy a true name. So it's a turn we're most likely to hit it before it gets put into play. And this stops our opponent pondering into one without having to spend too... So they have to spend their whole turn if they want to ponder into true name or something. Wasteland. Okay. That's pretty bad for us. But if they do that, they don't get to commit to the board. But that's probably fine for them. Like, snapping off Wastelands when I don't have the Initiative is fine. Okay. So it looks like they might be using their Wasteland for mana here, so they can pay the Thalia tax. No? Interesting. Still no movement on the Wasteland. Fascinating. They're doing it in our turn. So we're going to cast this pre-combat for the purposes of our opponent can snap a Wasteland off, and we don't want to let them Wasteland our thing. They can counter this and we can pay with Lotus Petal, but I didn't want to play out the Karakas because they have a Wasteland on board. If we play that out, we basically want the Wasteland to hit the city, as unintuitive as that sounds. So we have this Lightning Bolt, we have this Daze, we have Expressive Iteration. They've got a lot of Wastelands. I think we take the Bolt and make it cost 3. We definitely can't play out our Karakas now. So if we don't play something here, they're more likely to snap off a Wasteland, but again, they might just need something, because they are under the gun a little bit here. I'm not going to block your Dragon's Rage Channeler. So they can play a land here, the Wasteland, and then they can Lightning Bolt for 3 mana. Okay, just another Dragon's Rage Channeler. Sure. And there's the Wasteland. And there goes our land. Okay. So we can play this one out and attack. So now we're covered by Lightning Bolt, because Lightning Bolt costs 3, and Thalia because of Thalia. So if they try and bolt, they need to keep the Wasteland in play for that, so we can Karakas to save the Thalia and then redeploy it. So our opponent's in a bit of a spot there. Now we really need to keep the pressure on. But if our opponent doesn't hit like a mana source, then they're kind of locked out this game. This is probably what a white stompy deck should look like instead of all these broken initiative stuff. This is pretty serviceable. This is legacy power level stuff we're doing here. I guess we're going to attacks here. Yeah, sorry, the lightning bolt costs 4 actually because of the Thalia as well. Have a second lightning bolt, they can cast it though. But we know... Okay, so they've drew another lightning bolt. They're going for our Elite Spellbinder. Because that's the quickest clock that we have. And obviously we can bounce the Thalia, so that doesn't really work for them. Sure, so drew a lightning bolt. That's a little bit annoying for us. Now, if these guys flip over, then we're going to be in a bit of trouble. But we're not too far away from casting a Leyline, which would be quite funny. But they do have a daze. Okay, so drew a land. That's pretty good for them. That means they can Expressive Iteration next turn. Right, we'll take 2 here. Cavern of Souls, sure. Just keep swinging. I don't think we want to hold this back on blocks. Like, our opponent has an Expressive Iteration in hand. If the game goes long, they're going to win because they're going to see more cards than us. So the way we win this game is by stripping out our opponent's life total, not their resources. We're going to name Human on this one. Have a nice juicy target for their Wasteland. But they're going to have to use their Wasteland to pay for their Expressive Iteration bonus mana. Because of our Thalia doing some work here. We have drawn 3 bricks in a row. That's fine. That's what it's there for. That means they must have found another land. A Ponder, sure. They're just casting a 2-mana Ponder. If they're trying to flip these. If they flip these, then the race is going to be pretty awkward for us. So what they got? Instant, sorcery, land, artifact. So these are going to flip when the Ponder finishes resolving. So they've got a 3-turn clock. We also have a 3-turn clock. They get to attack first. So we're going to need some assistance here. And they have a lightning bolt they can cast. So that can actually kill us next turn. So we're going to need something here. A plains isn't it. So I'm pretty sure we've lost this game. Yeah, so what they can do, attack us for 6, lightning bolt us. Oh no, they need 4 mana, don't they, for the lightning bolt. So they need 1 more land to lightning bolt us. So we might get 1 more turn. Now, how we can deal our opponent 2 damage in this turn is going to be difficult. We don't have a Walking Ballista in our deck. A Delver of Secrets. Sure. What can we even realistically draw here? Well, we're going to draw another land, obviously, but I'm going to draw a Chalice. A little bit too late there. Sure, we're dead. So we had like 5 draws that were bad in a row, which is the problem when you play these decks sometimes, because you can't manipulate your draws outside of the scrying in the dungeon, which we never got into. So if we'd have played out our threats the other way around, played the tried to get the White Plume to be the one that sticks, they probably lightning bolt it straight away, and then we are just dead. Whereas at least we had a game of it because we had the guy that took the lightning bolt out of the hand and worked in tandem with the Thalia to tax them. But yeah, so we are 0-2 against Delver because, you know, that's a matchup that we're not going to win very often. All right, let's go to the next round. We've won the die roll. We have Chalice of the Void into White Plume, or we can make a turn 1 White Plume. Sure. We'll keep this. Is a turn 1 Chalice or a turn 1 White Plume what I want to play? Which one of those is better? We'll see what our opponent does with their mulligans. A mulligan to 6. If they go to 5, then I'll probably play the Chalice to try and shut them off with more cards. I've got to see what sort of vibe my opponent gives me. It makes me think they're a blue player, though. I want to play a Chalice. It means we have a lock against lightning bolts and stuff and plows on our White Plume. It might be the mirror, though. That'd be a bit awkward. But let's see. Ancient Tomb. Defense Grid. Yikes. We're playing that little game, aren't we? So our life total, probably not the most important thing here. So I think we play this. Pay 3 life, yes. Play out this. We play out the Seasoned Dungeoneer because this one grows quicker than the other one because of its ability. So this is the quickest clock we can present. And our opponent is a combo deck of some description. Now, it's important to note you can't put both Seasoned Dungeoneer triggers on the same Seasoned Dungeoneer because it has the protection from creatures once the first one's resolved. We'll Forge. We are racing our opponent here. This can go in the graveyard. Pump our guy. So now we have a choice here. We can either play out another Dungeoneer or a White Plume. Like I said before, the Dungeoneer is the one that grows the quickest. So this is what we're playing. Trap them for 5. So they have to try and combo this turn, which is something they can possibly do. Okay, they cannot do that. Excellent. So our opponent gave me the impression they were on the Epic Gamble or something of that ilk. So we definitely don't want Walking Ballistas. Those are bad. Let's have some Leyline of the Voids. I don't think we're in a Solitude matchup either. So these can go. That gives us 2 slots if we want them. We can take a Loran and maybe touch the Spirit Realm in case I have to play stuff out. And that'll probably do us, I think. So the Leyline is to stop Echo of Eons and stuff. This is a turn 1 White Plume or Elite Spellbinder. Probably has to be the Elite Spellbinder to try and slow our opponent down, but we might not even get to keep this hand, depending on if they can get their bits and pieces together with like an Echo. Ancient Tomb. Defense Grid. Sure. Lion's Eye Diamond. And nothing. Okay, so we're playing out our Chrome Mox. What are we imprinting? I think we want to cast the Elite Spellbinder this turn, which means we're probably actually dumping the White Plume here. It does let us journey through a bit quicker, but I think if we can do this and then also hit the Lion's Eye Diamond, that'd be quite nice. So put the White Plume under there. Do this. Then we will Elite Spellbinder them. They got 3 cards in hand, so a Wish and a Void Snare. I guess we just make the Wish more expensive. So they got some mana, but we can junk the LED next turn if we need to. There's a City of Traitors we know about. Although there is something we've done here. Because the Wish is no longer in their hand, they can actually cast it with the Lion's Eye Diamond, which is an interesting one. So are we supposed to Seasoned Dungeoneer here and try and put the race on them? I think so. And then next turn we can try and hit both of their permanents. So we're kind of letting them have a turn here. Put into your graveyard, I think. So that pumps our guy to 4. So we got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 damage coming in next turn. So we've got 2 turn clock. Now they can wish for a Echo and spin the Echo here and see if they can go off that way, because they can pay 5 mana using the City, Ancient Tomb and Lotus Petal and then Lion's Eye Diamond, but they'll basically be hoping that their new 7 cards is good. They won't be able to float any mana to help with that, but they will have an artifact in play for the purposes of Metalcraft. A Burning Wish. Sure. So I've discarded their hand there. Reforge the Soul. Sure. Thalia is good. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 mana. So we can cast Thalia and Elite Spellbinder if we get another turn. That's a pretty big if. Manamorphose. Okay. Rite of Flame. Sure. Another Rite of Flame. So that's a lot of mana they got now. 4, 5, 6 in their pool. So they can Manamorphose again. They can hardcast an Echo. Alright. Stormcount is pretty close to lethal off of the Tendrils, but they don't have any black mana as of yet. Okay, so they're going to have a lot of mana here. So mana's not the problem, and they do have this Wish that they can play for 5 mana still. A Galvanic Relay. That's might not be good enough. Let's see. Jessica's Will, Galvanic Relay. They already have a Wish in there. They don't seem too keen on playing. Rite of Flame, another Galvanic Relay, a Shadow Skull Smashing, and a Lotus Petal. Okay. Now they've still got 1 card in hand. Okay, so they're gambling here to put the Echo into the bin to then spin the wheel again. Sure. Okay, we have a Chalice, a Thalia, and a Loran. Can we deploy them all? If we put the Chalice on 0, we can, yeah. So, again, depends if we get another turn. Burning Wish. They can play a Tendrils here. There's the Tendrils. Yep, so if we had destroyed that thing, we would have been alright. Okay, they're just metamorphosing that way. But they already have... they got these in play as well. Tendrils point in our face. Sure, we concede the game there. So we're on the play for the final game. Don't want to do anything differently to how that went. I don't think so. This all seems fine. We'll just submit and try and get them. So Chalice for 0 is where we want to put it. So play all our 0 drops, dump Chalice. Like, this hand shuts down their graveyard. And it can make a Chalice. But I don't know if that's good enough. I think we can do better. Because how are we going to win the game? We have no white mana. This one seems fine. We can make a turn 1 Thalia. And then a turn 2 Palace Jailer. So what are we putting them where? We definitely don't want a Chrome Mox here. That's probably fine. So we're not going to use a Chrome Mox on turn... no, I don't think we can use a Chrome Mox on turn 1. So I think we are on play this, name human, play this out. So we can't get the turn 2 Palace Jailer here. But we stopped a lot of our opponent's things and then have to play them out, which means we can snipe them with Loran or touch the Spirit Realm if that's the thing that we want to do. If we draw a white card, we can play our Chrome Mox ready for the next turn. Shadow Skull Smashing tapped. Playing a Chrome Mox. Imprinting a Burning Wish. Sure. A Cavern of Souls. I think we're attacking here. I think we're naming human again with this one just so we can play the Palace Jailer next turn. A Burning Wish. So this is probably getting an answer to our Thalia here. A Grape Shot. Sure. Pretty reasonable answer. An Elite Spellbinder. I guess we're casting that one, aren't we? So this can take the Grape Shot they've just gone and got out of their hand, into their hand here. So we got Grape Shot, Galvanic Relay, just because we're... Okay, we'll take the Grape Shot. That makes that very expensive. We attack. So it costs 5 mana to cast the Grape Shot now. So if they have a land, they can just cast it for 1 and ping our Thalia. But again, that's their whole turn and gives us another turn to draw some disruption. Okay, they're using a Jessica's Will to draw some cards then. We got here. So they can cast these until their next turn, right? Play this turn. Oh, wow. Okay. That's pretty bad. Okay, so there's a concession. Sure. So we didn't do any of the really broken stuff. We just played like a fair stompy game, really. And that worked because it's good. Simply put. All right, I think we've got one more round left in us. On the play for the final round, which is somewhere I like to be. Our hand is slow. But I'm going to keep it, I think. Like we make a Walking Ballista on 1 off of our Ancient Tomb. So we can shut down some creatures and things. And then we can play into our opponent depending on what they have. So we can play a land, make another counter on our Walking Ballista, or we can play an Elite Spellbinder. We've kind of got options here. So we're set up against Elves and Delver a little bit here. Do you want to play one of our big prizes necessarily? Okay, so this looks like a lands matchup of some description. Sure. Understood. 8 Mulch. Field of the Dead is much more of an 8 Mulch card than a regular lands. Life from the Loam. Sure. So this means our Seasoned Dungeoneer can do its thing when the time comes. And that time is now, as it turns out. Sure. Our opponent has shown that they are not a blue deck, they're a landsy deck. So this is good for us. The initiative is very hard for these decks to beat outside of Marit Lage. Which they can make as early as... No, they can't do it next turn. Because if they had an Explore, they would have cast it this turn. This doesn't get counted from the Dungeoneer because it's a construct rather than one of the party types. But next turn we get to make a Spellbinder. We get to forge onto our Walking Ballista, perhaps. That's probably the best place to put counters on, to be honest. They're just worth more. The one way we can get punished for that is if they have a Punishing Fire, which is very aptly named. Okay, but if they're tapping down... Valakut Exploration, okay. That's what we're into, is it? Well, this is more standardy lands then. Alright. Well, they exile a forest, sure. I can take that one. So we'll forge onto the Walking Ballista because this means that when the time comes, there's an additional 3 damage that I can ping off. I think we're attacking with our team. This has only got one target, so it's going to automatically do that for us. A Karakas. Not very exciting, but it did draw us a card, I suppose. Let's play a City of Traitors here. Our opponent's on 13, so this is 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we have lethal here. So we're just going to cast this Elite Spellbinder, just to make sure the way is clear. What have you got for us, opponent? Crop rotation or endurance? Endurance doesn't scare me. The crop rotation does. If we make them pay 3 for it, it's going to be very hard for them to get like Merit Lage. If they cast a crop rotation, then we... okay, so they got a life from below in hand. So if they cast a crop rotation, I think we ping off 2 of the Walking Ballista pings off, just to lower their life total in case they get a Glacial Chasm. Because then they'll be taking 7 off of that, and they're going to try and win. Which is certainly possible with life from loan, but they're going to have to be sacking lands because they haven't got any sort of exploration mana bond type effect. Sure, life from loan for 3 irrelevant things as far as I can make out. Okay, they're just doing this so they can get a trigger on the Valak exploration. The Yavimaya is okay, but not really good enough, in my opinion. So they crop rotate here for Dark Depths. They still don't have enough mana to combo us. Trap. Let me click the wrong one then. Right, let's put them nice and low. So we know the cards in their hand. It's land and some other stuff. We also now have an answer for a Merit Lage token. I think we give this guy another counter. We play out this Karakas just to make sure if they do have a Merit Lage, we've got it completely covered. Then we attack with our squad. We want to spread out our power and toughness here. Solitude. Sure, we'll leave that on top. And endurance. Sure. If this connects, they die. So they're just dead here. They can't block this one. They block this one, they die. They block this one, they die. Walking Ballista actually being pretty good here. Okay, so I guess we move a counter and ping them for 1. Move a counter and ping them again. Just ping them with all the counters here. Okay, they conceded. Sure. So, this looks like a relatively, like sort of the longer, grindier ones. You sometimes see them with Valak Exploration. You don't really see lands that much in the face of Initiative anyway. So, what we're looking at here, probably don't need Walking Ballista, Palace Jailer, or Touch of the Spirit Realm. And that gives us Blessed Alliance and the life from the Leyline. So was it 2, 4, 6, and then we get Blessed Alliance and Leyline in the Void. Is Blessed Alliance better than Touch the Spirit Realm? Touch the Spirit Realm is like a free thing that can kill a whole bunch of stuff, actually. I don't know, maybe this Touch the Spirit Realm is better, because this kills Merit Lage, although they do have Pithing Needles, is a thing. And that's what they're probably going to name with Pithing Needle. Yeah, interesting. Like, we definitely want a 2-1 split, but I'm not sure which way. I guess they don't have counter magic, so the Blessed Alliance is pretty much always going to hit, so... Yeah, right, we'll submit like this. Chalice of the Void on 1 shuts off crop rotation, which is very strong for us. Shuts off exploration. We have double Leyline into Spellbinders on turn 2. Is that good enough? I don't think it is. Like, it's already a mulligan because we have 2 Leylines, so we may as well take a mulligan and try and fish for a hand that can maybe make turn 1 initiative, because that also gets us our basic to play around Wasteland. Our opponent's mulliganed as well, so let's mulligan. This one does not make a turn 1 guy. It's kind of like similar to the last hand, but slightly worse, maybe. Is a turn 2 White Plume good enough? I think so. We've got this Solitude that we can pitch as well, so I think we're probably looking at getting rid of a Cavern here. Wooded Foothills. Have they got the exploration? They do, sure. So this is one of the better starts they can have. This can give them a turn 2 Merit Lage, which we have an answer for, but not a great answer. Sure. So because we don't care about spells getting countered, we'd rather keep the white source that taps for everything. So we're going to play this on human. Oh, we should have played it on cleric. That was a mistake. My bad. That means we're going to have to play Spellbinder instead of the white plume here. That was a bit of a misstep. So you do put it on human, but we actually need it for the fixing, don't we? I might just get wastelanded here, or merit laged anyway. There's the wasteland, sure. Alright, so we put that one out wanting to get it wastelanded rather than the other ones. So I guess we achieved our aim, but... right, we'll play out this card. And then next turn we can maybe white plume and kill a Saga token. Because the Saga tokens are going to be small. They're going to be 3/3s, so we can kill one and block it with our 2/2 white plume to maintain the initiative. Now if our opponent gets an expedition map, finds a wasteland, that's pretty good, but that means they can't make a token this turn. And I suppose they can have... Okay, they got an expedition map, so they're just going for the wasteland plan. Sure, putting us into the dirt. You want to attack first, mate. Oh no, life from loaming, sure. And they got wasteland there. Sure. So we are probably dead here. Well, if we draw like a Lotus Petal or something, then we're doing A-OK. So all that's going to happen is we're just going to keep playing these out, and we're going to keep getting them wastelanded. But while our opponent's doing that, at least they're not making a merit lage yet. Although they can just make a merit lage turn after next with the expedition map. So we're going to be dead in pretty short order, I think, here. We didn't have a turn 1 play. So they can attack us for 3 if they want this turn. Or they can just go back to Wasteland Town. So the way we win this game is by drawing a Lotus Petal or something to make the white plume, which gets us a basic, as well as getting us the initiative, and then we use our Solitude to protect the initiative, and then we use our Blessed Alliance to then protect it again. That's our plan. So we can still win this game. Cavern of Souls. So I think we play this one out. We'll name Cleric. So they're just going to keep doing the wasteland every turn thing, but while they're doing that, at least they're not making more Ezra Saga tokens. So this turn they're going to crack the expedition map and make a merit lage, which we're going to be forced to do something with. There we go. We are very far behind. So we back up to 3/3s. Pyrite Spellbomb. Richland Port. So every turn that goes by that we're not deploying this guy is getting worse here. I think we maybe have one more turn to deploy it. Otherwise, I think we're going to get buried too much. Like, we might not win if we put the white plume, but it's going to give us a reasonable fighting chance, to be honest. We get to keep the Monarch if we do as well. Not the Monarch, the initiative. Thalia doesn't really do anything for us, so we're just going to play this. Tapped, and let our opponent have another turn of wasteland on us. Not the most fun. But I'm playing the initiative, so I can't. Oh, Richstone Pool, we don't see that every day. That's nice. Yeah, we can't really complain about what other people are doing when we're playing this monster deck. Sure. Okay, they're not... Well, they are slowly winning the game with these guys, and they're going to be making more tokens. So I think this is our last turn to draw the Lotus Petal. Otherwise, I think it's going to be too little too late here. Nope. I think we can scoop it up now. And that was our last turn to do that. Okay, so any changes? I don't think so. I think this is all fine. Let's just submit it again and have a jolly nice time on the play. This doesn't really do anything. Chalice is fine, but we need a way of winning the game, so I think we mulligan. This is Chalice into Thalia, which is okay, but not great. I think we can do better. Where are our initiative guys? Okay, this is Chalice into Seasoned Dungeoneer. Well, Chalice into Spellbinder to Seasoned Dungeoneer. So we keep these. So we can't keep 2 of these. I have to put 3 cards away, don't we? I think we're probably putting these away. This gives us the best chance to get the initiative. Like, if we get the initiative, we pretty much win the game in this matchup. So this will shut them off of crop rotations and all sorts. Now, they can just naturally wasteland us out here. Should be very mean. That's like what's going to happen here. Yeah, the Malta 4 into wasteland is going to be bad for us. I don't even think we play the land out here. Touch the Spirit Realm. Okay, so now I want to play this out in case we draw a another mana source, like a soul land next turn, so we can play a Dungeoneer. I've got a second natural wasteland. Yikes. Solitude. So we're not dying to creatures in the immediate future, but we're also not doing anything either. At some point our opponent can play a Life of Malone and then we're just dead. Torpor Orb. Sure. That card is not actually very good against the Initiative in my testing. The wastelands in their deck are far better than Torpor Orbs is. Creatures are pretty good on their own anyway. And if you ever draw another Torpor Orb, it's dead. And sometimes like you have to have it early enough. We got super unlucky not to have any creatures basically in our first few hands this game. But we got a Richdown Port to play against. They got an eventual win condition. Sure. They've made a mistake there. Elite Spellbinder that we can't really do anything with. Sure. We're not going to play out the Petal in case they've got any sort of Force of Vigor things. We want to give them a 2-for-1 on blowing up the Chalice. Okay, they got a 20/20 next turn. We do have a Solitude, so we're not dead. But I'm not happy with the situation we're in. So we don't want to play this out yet. We want to see if we can draw like a white Plume first. And do it all in one turn. Like we're going to be pitching 2 cards to make this, to kill this Merit Lage. Wait, no, we're not because we got this, the Torpor Orb, yeah. And we should have played out the... Yeah, we're just dead here. Like, we could have played out this so we could touch the Spirit Realm to flicker this, but we're just dead here. Yeah, so we died to the Wastelands really there. Sure. So, a 2-3, so a pretty terrible record for this, but let's have a little look at the deck. So, what do we lose to? We lost to Delver, which is the only deck that really sort of predates on the White Initiative because... You know, Delver's the best deck and has been for quite a while and needs bannings, and everyone was very surprised they didn't get a banning last time. So so basically the only deck that really does the business on this deck seems to be the deck that needs a banning. We did lose to the lands matchup. I feel we got a little bit unfortunate. Maybe we should have mulliganed harder in game 2 just to try and make like a turn 1 guy. We didn't get to do a lot of turn 1ing of stuff. Like a turn 1 White Plume Adventurer versus lands is game over like 90% of the time, or any initiative guy. So we mulliganed pretty hard. We sort of lost a variance in the last round there, I think. But we could have possibly played for another turn by playing our City of Traitors out. So it was a misplay not to do that because they had the Merit Lage on board. But again, we are almost certainly losing that game at that point because we just didn't have a very playable opening hand. We had to rely on our opponent not having their Wasteland, and they had the Wasteland, so we lost to it. And we also lost to the Wasteland. Like, you also saw the Delver matchups where we lost to Wastelands, as well as like things like True Name and stuff. So you need to have a relatively good hand. But the thing is, Delver, if they Wasteland you, they're also applying pressure and stuff and can steal the initiative and things like that. Whereas the lands player, if you get the initiative, then they really struggle to take it back. And also, if they Wasteland you, they're not necessarily doing anything alongside it. So normally lands is a pretty good matchup for the old initiative decks, and the amount of lands decks in the meta has drastically decreased with the initiative deck coming in to the fore. But again, the reason why Magic is such a great game is that there's no such thing as a predetermined outcome. So sometimes you're going to win, sometimes you're going to lose, even in favourable matchups. Like this deck, I'm so confident that this deck is going to get banned that I've sold all my paper in. Well, I've sold most of my paper initiative cards. I'm just trying to sell the last few because I just think this deck is too good. Obviously, now this league where we only went 2-3 doesn't necessarily show it. But again, like I said, the only deck that is regularly beating up on it is the Delver deck, which is already, has been ban worthy for about 6 months probably. So don't feel too bad about that. We did fight against the Delver twice, and the games were not completely one-sided. Like some of them obviously were, and we crushed them game 1 both times. So the deck is strong. You just need to like sort of eke out a second win in game 2 or 3 against them, which isn't always easy to do, but there's definitely the tools there for it in terms of things like the Chalices and the Leylines and Thalias and things can really get there. So like if our opponent didn't have the Lightning Bolt immediately for our White Plume, I think we just win that game against the Delver deck. Yeah, we had the tools to beat Storm relatively well because we could Leyline them and Chalice them and Thalia them. Like we won a lot of games just with the fair white creatures like the Thalias and Spellbinders and stuff without actually needing the initiative to go off. Like we didn't really get the initiative that many times this league, which is probably why we went 2-3 at the end of the day. So there is that. Yeah, not much to say about this. Really, this deck is really busted in my opinion, but you didn't really get to see that too much today. We got a little bit unlucky in the last one, but all right. I haven't really got anything else to do, so if you like my content, you can actually click the like button and that boosts me in the algorithm. You can put a comment on it, that really helps, and you can subscribe to it because it won't cost you anything to subscribe and it really helps me. And if you want to go one step further to support my content, what you can do is you can just post my videos in places, whether that's like your Discord, your Facebook groups, or on Reddit, especially Reddit because I don't actually go on Reddit myself. If people can post my content there, it really helps me out. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this one, me being the bad guy. In a way, it's kind of nice that I lost because it's nice to see the initiative deck lose. But we maybe could have mulliganed slightly more aggressively sometimes, but there's also the downside of what happened in the last game where you just mulligan to oblivion. Alright, that's the end of that, and I'm probably not going to play the initiative deck again on my channel before I think it gets banned anyway. So I hope you enjoyed seeing it from the other side of the board, really. Alright, thank you for watching, and goodbye.